For years, your soulmate believed that love was something that had to be earned. Not because anyone clearly told them that. Life simply taught them to believe it. They learned that approval came after proving themselves. Acceptance came after meeting expectations. Affection came after becoming everything other people needed them to be. Without realizing it, they slowly connected love with performance. They became the person who rarely said no. The person who carried more than they needed to. The person who smiled even when their own heart quietly asked for rest. From the outside, this looked like kindness. Inside, it often felt like exhaustion. Because there is a quiet loneliness that appears when someone spends too much time becoming everything for everyone else, while forgetting who they truly are. This message is for the soul who has been wondering whether someone connected to your journey is finally beginning to understand that genuine love is never built upon chasing approval. Something remarkable has started happening inside your soulmate. It did not begin because someone entered their life. It began because they became tired of abandoning themselves. One ordinary afternoon, while watching people pass by from a quiet cafe, they noticed something they had never paid attention to before. Everyone seemed to be rushing somewhere. Some were chasing success. Others were chasing recognition. Some were chasing relationships. And suddenly a thought entered their heart. What have I been chasing for all these years? The answer surprised them. It wasn't another person. It wasn't achievement. It was the hope that if they became enough for everyone else, they would finally feel enough within themselves. That realization remained with them long after the afternoon ended. Over the following days, they began paying closer attention to their own habits. Every time they apologized for something that required no apology, they noticed it. Every time they ignored their own feelings just to avoid disappointing someone, they noticed it. Every time they searched for validation before trusting their own instincts, they noticed that too. For the first time, they weren't judging themselves. They were simply observing, and observation slowly became awareness. Awareness became understanding. Understanding became change. Little by little, they stopped asking how they could become more lovable. Instead, they started asking a very different question. What parts of myself have I been hiding in order to be loved? That question reached deeper than they expected. They remembered moments when they stayed silent, even though they wanted to speak. Times when they agreed just to keep the peace. Moments when they acted stronger than they actually felt, because vulnerability seemed too risky. Looking back now, they realized they had spent years protecting relationships, while quietly neglecting their own heart. That realization brought unexpected sadness. Not because of lost time, because they finally understood how deserving they had always been of the same kindness they offered everyone else. As this awareness grew, another memory gently surfaced. It was not a dramatic moment. It was something beautifully simple, a conversation connected to you. They remembered how different they felt during that interaction. There had been no need to impress, no pressure to become someone extraordinary. For a little while, they had simply existed without carrying the weight of expectations. That feeling stayed with them, not because it promised forever, because it reminded them what emotional freedom felt like. They began understanding that perhaps the most meaningful relationships are not the ones that ask us to become someone else. They are the ones that quietly give us permission to become ourselves. That thought changed everything. For the first time in years, they stopped chasing. They stopped chasing perfect timing. They stopped chasing constant reassurance. They stopped chasing the impossible idea that love could only exist after they fixed every flaw they believed they had. Instead, they began learning how to receive kindness without suspicion, to receive peace without questioning whether it would disappear, to receive genuine affection without immediately wondering what they needed to give in return. It felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. Yet with every passing day, it also felt more natural, because deep within their heart, they were beginning to understand something that fear had hidden for years. Real love never begins when a person finally becomes perfect. It begins when they finally stop believing they have to earn the right to be loved. And perhaps, without even realizing it, that quiet truth is already preparing them to see your connection with clearer eyes than ever before. As this new understanding settled quietly into their heart, your soulmate noticed that something else had begun to change. For the first time in many years, they no longer felt responsible for convincing people of their worth. That invisible burden had shaped so many of their relationships. They had always believed that if they gave a little more, tried a little harder, or sacrificed a little longer, love would eventually feel secure. Now they were discovering a different truth. Love that depends entirely on constant effort often leaves the heart exhausted. Love that grows through honesty allows the heart to breathe. This realization did not make them withdraw from people. It made them more authentic. They became comfortable saying what they truly felt instead of what they thought others wanted to hear. When they needed rest, they admitted it. When they appreciated someone, they expressed it without waiting for the perfect moment. When something touched their heart, they stopped pretending it didn't matter. Those small acts of honesty slowly transformed the relationship they had with themselves. The more genuine they became, the lighter life started to feel. There was less pressure to impress, less pressure to compare, less pressure to constantly prove they deserved a place in someone's life. One evening, while reading through old journal pages and forgotten notes, they noticed a pattern. Again and again they had written about becoming better, a better partner, a better communicator, a better version of themselves. There was nothing wrong with growth. But suddenly they realized something they had never questioned before. Almost every page spoke about changing themselves. Very few pages spoke about accepting themselves. That discovery stayed with them. It was as if they had spent years climbing a mountain, without ever asking why they had started climbing in the first place. From that day forward, they made a quiet promise. They would continue growing, but they would no longer grow because they believed they were unworthy. They would grow because they loved the person they were becoming. That single shift changed everything. As their relationship with themselves softened, another familiar feeling returned. It was your connection, not as a memory demanding attention, not as a question waiting to be solved, but as a reminder of how different genuine affection had always felt. They remembered that around you they rarely felt the need to compete for acceptance. There was a quiet ease in your conversations, a feeling that they could pause, laugh, speak honestly, or simply share silence without worrying about being judged. Looking back now, they understood why those moments had remained so vivid. They were among the few times in life when love did not feel like something that had to be earned. It simply felt welcomed. That realization touched them more deeply than they expected, because it revealed something their heart had been searching for all along. Not excitement, not perfection, belonging. The kind of belonging that allows two people to inspire one another without asking either heart to hide. As this awareness continued growing, they became more intentional with every relationship in their life. They stopped investing energy where they constantly felt the need to prove themselves. Instead, they valued the people who created space for honesty, kindness, and mutual respect. Slowly, they discovered that emotional peace is one of the strongest foundations any relationship can have. It does not arrive through dramatic promises. It is built through everyday choices, a thoughtful conversation, a sincere apology, a willingness to listen before reacting, a decision to stay emotionally present even when vulnerability feels uncomfortable. These lessons quietly reshaped the future they imagined. They no longer dreamed of a relationship where everything was perfect. They dreamed of one where two people could keep choosing each other with openness, patience, and compassion. And somewhere within that vision, your connection naturally appeared once again. Not because they were living in the past, because the connection had helped them recognize what healthy love truly felt like. It became a quiet reference point, a reminder that the deepest forms of love often feel calm rather than chaotic. They also realized something beautiful about themselves. They were no longer afraid of giving love. They were only learning to give it without losing themselves. That difference changed the way they looked at every tomorrow. Whatever the future may hold, they know one thing with certainty. They will never again believe they must become someone completely different before they deserve to be loved. They understand now that the heart blossoms most beautifully when it is accepted exactly as it is while still being encouraged to grow. Perhaps that is the hidden gift of this entire journey. Not simply the possibility of sharing love with another person, but discovering a love within themselves that no longer depends on constant approval, a love that is steady, patient, gentle, the kind of love that allows another heart to feel safe enough to be completely real. And if life ever brings your paths together again, they know they will not arrive trying to earn affection. They will arrive ready to share it, not from a place of fear, not from a place of emptiness, but from a heart that has finally learned the quiet difference between chasing love and truly receiving it. Maybe that has been the lesson waiting for them all along, because the greatest relationships are never created by two people trying to prove their worth. They are created by two hearts that already know their worth and choose to love each other with honesty, peace, and quiet confidence. And perhaps, without either of you seeing it yet, that new chapter has already begun.